Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs. We're gonna do week four recap here before the games tonight, the two Monday night games. So yeah, it was well, I don't know, it wasn't that wild of a weekend, but there was some good games. Let's just cover some of the games. Wiggs, Bengals Panthers. The Bengals with the big win. They finally came out, got the win. Still a lot of question marks, don't you think, Wiggs, with that team? Because I mean, the Panthers scored 24 points. But like I talked about, the Panthers defense is still suspect, right? They got to turn that around. The one good sign out of this game was Deontay Johnson and Andy Dalton are starting to form that chemistry. I know that makes you happy, and stuff. And but Deontay's too talented. I mean, so it's good that he's got that because he is a really good receiver. And Chase had a good game, and Burrow's starting to look like Burrow of old. So maybe this is going to be the turning point for the Bengals. Anything to add on that one, Wiggs?
Nope.
Saints Falcons. Yeah, this was an exciting game. What I think the Falcons kicker, what it was, a 58-yarder or something like that.
Yeah.
Right, with no time left. This was again another good game. We're finding out slowly for some reason. I don't know what it is. Pitts isn't really active in that offense. Kirk doesn't look his way a lot, so Pitts' value from a fantasy perspective is definitely tanking. So and Bijan didn't really have that great of a game
No.
either. So it wasn't that great of a game there. And the Saints, um, the Falcons slowed them down. Finally, it was a divisional game, so that might have had something to do with it. And they just had some bad luck there at the end of the game where and I think I said this in the video I shot, Wiggs, when you were gone, that I felt that this game was going to come down to the last possession, whoever had the ball, and it did. So
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a close game. I'm still shocked that Cousins isn't even looking Pitts' way. I mean, 3 targets in the game, and I looked at all 3 of the targets. He threw it to him twice in double coverage, and then once he completely missed Pitts. So,
yeah, and then Kamara had a decent game there as well. Olave's production is still not that great, and he's dealing with a hamstring injury still. So the next game though is Texans and the Jaguars. I really thought this one wasn't going to be as close as it was. The Texans really kind of had to battle back. C.J. Stroud started off really slow. Um, but they came back. Nico Collins had a really good game, 151 yards and a touchdown. Brian Thomas Jr. is definitely defining himself as one of the top receivers in this draft class. Wouldn't you agree, Wiggs? He had 99 yards and a touchdown. He's starting to become a touchdown machine there for the Jaguars. So Trevor Lawrence, though, what can you say? Lawrence, um, his accuracy still not that great. Kirk didn't have a great game. It was okay game. He had a touchdown and stuff. Um, but they got to figure something out. They're 0-4 now. I didn't think they'd be 0-4, but it is what it is. So I don't care personally as long as Brian Thomas Jr. keeps producing.
I thought this was going to be a blowout, but the Texans just, from what I saw, didn't look that great in the game outside of Nico Collins.
Yeah.
But
Well, this is the time of year to start getting those bugs worked
yeah,
out, though. If you're at least winning and not looking great,
yeah,
that's good. Broncos Jets game, exactly what I said it was going to be in my video. I thought it was going to be a defensive battle. I didn't think it was going to be high scoring. Uh, the Jets had the game in hand. Their kicker blew the last kick of the game and they lost. So everybody's, pointing at, I saw an interview where the Jets coach is saying, well, they need to work on their cadences and maybe eliminate them and just eliminate the false starts. I thought Aaron Rodgers came out with um, a good rebuttal to that. He's like, yeah, that's one way to approach it, but the other thing to do is maybe hold those guys accountable. Because we do this in practice. Why did we have 5 false starts in this game? So on the flip side, the Broncos kind of a surprise team right now. They pulled off a couple big wins here the last 2 weeks, and Bo Nix is definitely um, doing a fairly decent job there in Bronco Nation. So it's going to be interesting to see how they shake out. What do you think, Wiggs?
Uh, Honestly, it was more one of those boring type games where, like you said, it was defensive heavy. So like not a lot of scoring to me. That's just in my eyes, at least, a boring game. And we really didn't see like any crazy performances out of anyone on either team. I think the best one we had was like Sutton with 60 yards and a touchdown. And outside of that, Brees Hall had a dud, Garrett Wilson had a dud. Like everyone basically had duds around the board there on both teams.
Yeah, the other thing from a fantasy perspective to keep an eye on is Braden Allen. He's still pretty active in their offense. He actually had a better game than Brees Hall. So keep an eye on him for you guys that have Braden Allen. Next game, Vikings Packers. As you can see, got the Vikings hat on. Listen, I'm glad they pulled out the win. Um, listen. I'm still not convinced for a couple reasons. One, like I said in the video before, the Packers were down both of their cornerbacks. You could tell Jordan Love was not 100%. He looked terrible in the first half. He started to look better in the second half. Couldn't put weight on his one knee, which was causing him to throw some errant passes. The Packers turned the ball over 5 times. You're not going to win that way. The Vikings did really absolutely nothing in the second half of this game. They scored 28 points in the first half. They scored 3 points in the second, and they almost blew this win. So, I mean, I don't want to be a negative Nelly here, as people have called me in the past, but I just want to be realistic. Listen, I want to see more out of the Vikings, okay? I don't want you going up, like you did in the first half and allowing the team to come back into it. So, especially when the other team that you're playing was down with some significant injuries. So, positives out of this game, though, is Aaron Jones looked really good again in both rushing and receiving. Addison's starting to get back to form. I think, Jefferson had a Jefferson type game. He was definitely covered a lot and stuff. On the flip side, Jaden Reed had a really great game, 141 yards and a touchdown. He is a beast. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be even bigger now that Watson might be on IR. They're saying he didn't do any significant damage, but it was a high ankle sprain and it might put him on IR.
Yeah, so if you're the Vikings, you can't go up by a lot. Like take your foot off the gas. Like I turned off the game personally when it was 28-7, and then I pull up my phone to look at the fantasy football because I had the Vikings D, and the next thing I know, it's like 31-29 within like the last minute. I'm like, I don't know what happened, but you can't let off the gas like that. You have to keep up on it, and I mean, to let Jordan Love tear you apart in the second half on a bum knee, like it's just kind of pathetic.
Yeah, it was, and in all honesty, and this is my opinion, and I had a Packer friend messaging me during the game out in Wisconsin, and personally, I think the coach made a huge mistake. They should have sat Love at least one more week. I think if they would have played Willis, they might have had a shot at winning this game. I'm not saying Willis was going to blow up the world, but I think he probably wouldn't have made the mistakes that Love made. Plus, he was going to be able to be a lot more mobile, which would have probably gave the defense a lot more trouble. So I think the coach made an error in playing Love. I know that they wanted to win the game and stuff like that, but I think Love needed to sit out. And that's your franchise quarterback. Why are you taking a chance with your franchise quarterback? Anyways, on the next game, Steelers Colts. This was a surprise to me for 2 reasons. One, the Colts lost their starting quarterback and Richardson. Um, Two, it just goes to show that having a quality backup like the Colts have and Joe Flacco is huge, because Flacco came in and he left off where he did last year
With
when
the
he was
Browns, yeah.
with the Browns. So the Steelers defense did not have their best game this week, was not a great game. The Colts did exactly what I said they needed to do. They needed to get Pittman involved in the game, and Jonathan Taylor needed to be active in the game. Both of them were active in the game. It helped Pittman that it was Flacco, because Flacco's experienced just like Andy Dalton. He's going to find his playmakers, and he knows what kind of playmaker Pittman is, and it showed in the results. Pittman had 113 yards. So the Steelers on the flip side, they started off really slow, got into a hole. Justin Fields got into a rhythm then. He had was that a combined 367? He had a combined of 367 yards and a total of 3 touchdowns. Listen, I think he's getting more and more comfortable in this offense, and as they're seeing him more and more comfortable, I think they're opening the offense up a little bit more, which they should. They need to get George Pickens involved in this offense more, and there's no reason why Fields can't have the connection with Pickens that he did with Moore in Chicago, right? I mean, because Pickens and Moore are kind of similar, right? Would you agree, Wiggs? I mean, so yeah. Not. I mean, if I'm a Steelers fan, I wouldn't be panicking. They're 3-1. I think they're going to be just fine. They just got to work on some things here and stuff. But it was a good game. Anything you want to
And
add on that?
the Steelers need to figure out their run game because their run game has been pretty weak all year. Fields led them like yesterday with 55 yards rushing. Cordero Patterson, before getting hurt, actually was having a pretty solid game. A lot of it came on one drive, but I think if Patterson didn't get hurt, that he would have also finished the game off pretty strong. And I think he probably could have had a touchdown too because Harris was kind of just irrelevant throughout the game, and it was really just the Justin Fields show all day yesterday.
Which again, Wiggs, I know you and I debated this in an earlier video the last couple months. I I said, did I not say that I didn't think Harris was going to be as big as everybody was thinking he was going to be? Here he's going up against a defense that is at that before this game was averaging giving up 170 yards rushing in a game. If there was any game that Harris should have been able to pop off in, this was the game. He didn't do it. And Jalen Warren was out, and you got an old guy in Cordell Patterson that was coming in
And he
there,
was
right?
rushing. I'm like,
So, if anything, I think this is showing that Najee is not the answer, at least not individually, and they need to get Jalen Warren involved in that offense. And if they have to involve Patterson too. But this was the game to pop off on, and he didn't do it. Next game, another a little bit of a surprise to me. The Bears came out, pulled out a big win, 24-18 over the Rams. Um, Still not sold on Caleb Williams. I think he's still got a lot of issues, but he's getting some W's. The Rams can't catch a break. They got injuries left and right. Kyron had a decent game. I think he had almost 100 yards rushing with a touchdown. Uh, but the Bears defense was just too much for the Rams in this one. I thought it was going to be vice versa. I thought the Rams defense was going to be a little bit too much for Caleb Williams. Not that Caleb Williams had a great game, but he did enough to pull out the win. Their defense did enough to stop the Rams and assist with the win. So it was definitely a team effort there and stuff. I think we can see Roshan Johnson start being a little bit more involved in the offense. But Swift actually had a decent game. He had 165 total yards and a touchdown. So I think he was kind of feeling the heat. Would you think? Do you think so, Wiggs? But I think they got a good 1-2 punch with Swift and Johnson. There in Chicago, they just need to get Caleb more comfortable in that offense and get him doing things that Caleb likes to do.
well, I think they were smart and they designed more plays around Swift. Swift had 6 or 7 receptions yesterday, and I think even just like small throws there from Williams to Swift will help them build some confidence. And I mean, 77 yards receiving yesterday from Swift, so was pretty good. And I don't know how to judge that receiving core at all. I'm not sold on any of the three because I think it's just going to kind of be a toss up of who has what week. And the only saving grace for someone like DJ Moore this week was a touchdown grab, and other than that, it was only like 20
Yeah,
yards.
you see, my problem here is that I think that Williams is struggling finding his receivers and getting them the ball, getting them a catchable ball, I should say. So I think Udunzi's still really good. I think Allen dipped into his production a little bit, but I just don't think that their offensive coordinator is doing a very good job with using Williams' strengths and getting these weapons the ball. I mean, these receivers the ball. They did enough to win this game, but they're not going to be able to get by with doing this the rest of the year. They got to figure it out. So, little, a little surprising, but not too much, given the fact that the Rams basically are, pulling people off the street to play on their offense right now. So, Next game, Eagles Buccaneers. This was no surprise to me in the video that I shot Sunday morning or on the live stream. I mentioned that the Buccaneers were going to win this one. I didn't. I thought the Eagles were going to struggle because both their receivers were out, and they did. They needed Dallas Goedert to have a good game. He had an okay game. I think he still had like 13 points. I think, but you know, and the Buccaneers did exactly what I said they were going to do, and that was shut. I mean, Saquon really did not have a great game, so they shut him down. And Baker Mayfield looked really good. 347 total yards, 2 touchdowns. So Mayfield has really got that offense for Tampa Bay humming along. And once they get some of their defensive guys back, I think the Buccaneers are going to be. They're proving me wrong because I don't think I think at the beginning of the year I wasn't 100% sold on Tampa Bay, but I'm starting to buy into them now. Wiggs, what do you think?
Oh, nice little bounce back there from Mike Evans. Figures the week I play against him, he bounces back, but after 2 duds, he comes out, has 23 points there in fantasy, and I mean the offense is looking good. I mean both running backs are looking good. You got 2 or 3 receivers catching the ball. Like it's sitting well for him. The Eagles look like crap right now. Like Jalen Hurts just does not look like himself from last year at all.
Well, he hasn't. AJ Brown's been out.
I mean,
Devontae, he doesn't have any. He doesn't have any targets. You gotta have targets. That would be like if Sam.
You also got to hold on to the ball and not fumble it.
Well, I agree with you, but he's got to have targets to throw to, or they got to come up with something, and they didn't do that.
You got to stop turning over the ball on top of that too. You got to keep it in your hands.
At any rate, next game, Patriots and 49ers. Again, no surprise for me. I thought the 49ers were going to dominate this game. Listen, I understand why the Patriots coach doesn't want to put Drake May in there right now. To an extent, I get it. Their offensive line is crap. They're really bad. And I think he's afraid to put him in there, under that kind of duress. But with that said, at some point you gotta start seeing what kind of commodity you have that you drafted at the third overall pick. And you're not going to have a perfect offensive line every year. So you need to see what he's going to be like under duress. So at some point, he needs to make the decision and put Drake May in there because Brissett did not look good. Even for a veteran quarterback, he did not look good. And their offense doesn't look good at all. I'll say the same thing here. I mean, the offensive coordinator is not using their weapons the way they should. And even with as bad as their offensive line is, you still got to figure something out. There's other things you can do, right, to compensate for a bad offensive line. And at some point, they got to look at Drake May. On the flip side, Brock Purdy did exactly what I thought. He had a bounce back game. It helps when your running back has 160 total yards and a touchdown. Jordan Mason had a really good game. Juan Jennings had another decent game. Kittle had a touchdown. So their offense was humming in this game. Big 30-13 win. Didn't surprise me. I didn't think the Patriots were going to do much against this team. I think the Patriots are just a complete mess. And I think it starts with their head coach and works its way down to their coaching staff. And they need to start making adjustments and figuring things out now, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty predictable game. That's the outcome that should have happened. So I got nothing to really say there.
Next game, this one didn't surprise me in regards to who won in the Cardinals and Commanders. What did surprise me is how much they won by and how much they dominated the Cardinals. Because if you were to look at this Washington team at the beginning of the year, the first game of the season, their defense was horrendous. They come in, they're on the road against the Cardinals, against Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., and an offense that was really kind of humming, right? Yeah, they didn't have McBride. He was out, blah, 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 right? But after that first touchdown score that Harrison got, the Washington defense shut down Murray and this Cardinals defense. Now, maybe it had something to do with the fact that Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator of the Commanders, and he used to be the head coach of the Cardinals and was fired, and they were a little fired up and wanted to get him a win. I don't know. I think it's like I said before, Wiggs. I think Dan Quinn is starting to turn this defense around. I really do. I think he's starting to figure them out, and as the season goes on, it's gonna get better. But geez, Jaden Daniels, 81% completion percentage. That over the last 4 games, that's like the best ever. This guy is the real deal. He is composed. It wasn't like he wasn't getting pressured. This Cardinals defense is a good Cardinals defense. Um, he was he targeted McLaurin, I think, 10 times. So they're starting to get a chemistry. Robinson is looking really good in the backfield.
Honestly, I really wish they'd just keep Eckler on the bench at this point because Robinson looked insane.
Yeah, Robinson's looking really good. They are, and Jaden Daniels. The difference between Daniels and Richardson to me is Daniels is being smart about when he runs and he's protecting himself. Whereas if you see the play where Richardson got hurt, Richardson totally put himself in that situation. You can't do that. They need to talk to Richardson about being smart about running. They need to show him videos of Michael Vick or whatever and how smart he was. But anyways, this Commanders team, I'm starting to become a believer. They're at the top of their conference right now. Who would have thought that? Would you have thought
Eagles and Cowboys?
No way, right? They're like 3-1.
Yep.
That's crazy. So, anyways, good game from the Commanders, and the Cardinals. Obviously, I think they're going to bounce back and stuff, but they just hit an offense that's playing on all cylinders.
Yeah,
right
and
now.
I'm very impressed by Jaden Daniels. You can tell he's learned a lot since the first 2 games. I mean, he even improved there in week 2, but you can tell he's getting more comfortable in the pocket and not stressing out, and then he will extend plays and run it when he needs to. I mean, just from looking at the clips of his game yesterday, he just looks like he's super composed and not frantic or anything. He's willing to take a hit when needed as well, so he's looking good. I'm genuinely surprised by him. He's the #1 quarterback right now in fantasy football, so good stuff there from him. And if he keeps this up, he's going to be a really good quarterback because he's really looked impressive so far.
Yeah, I agree. Next game, Chiefs Chargers. Listen, I'm not going to go on a big rant here, but I am going to say this. The NFL is on the Chiefs side right now. The Chiefs get all kinds of calls. Um, the officiating, loves the Chiefs. I don't know what it is. Does the NFL want them to try to go for a three-peat, whatever? I'm just getting really tired of the Chiefs getting all the calls their way, and when it's totally obvious that they shouldn't get it. So, um, listen, they came out, they won. Uh, Patty Mahomes probably feels really bad right now because he threw an interception and then he took out his #1 receiver. That was crazy. I don't know what the heck.
That was a bad play by him.
I don't know what Mahomes was thinking, but that was a terrible play. He just took out his receiver. They still don't have results from his testing, but they're assuming he tore his ACL and that he's going to be done for the year. There's big rumors swirling around that they might be looking at picking up Cooper from the Browns. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the big rumor right now. The Chargers, I figured they were going to struggle here. They couldn't get anything going with their run game really. Justin Herbert was playing injured, and it's hard. It's hard when you're playing against not only the Chiefs defense and the Chiefs offense, but also the officials. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I just think it was crazy how this keeps happening every week, but it is what it is, and prayers out to Rashid Rice because that was terrible.
Yeah, that was a terrible pass by Mahomes. This is just a kind of low-scoring divisional game. I didn't expect it to go crazy this week. Teams usually show up for the most part against divisional rivals, but Ladd McConkey looked good in this game. A touchdown on like 60 yards receiving. Was targeted the most there in the team, and yeah.
Next game, we got the Browns versus the Raiders. Listen, uh, the Raiders pulled out a win here. Um, I was, you know, a little surprised, but it didn't surprise me though. I guess to a degree, because they were fired up in regards to the embarrassing loss that they had. Minshew, didn't really blow up the world.
136 yards.
And I mean, they just did enough to win. I mean, the Browns kind of basically handed them this game.
Yeah.
I think they didn't play very well. Judy was their leading receiver.
Wasn't there a bad call in this game that got called back from a Cooper 80-yard touchdown or something like that?
There might have been. I mean, there was a bad call in the 49ers game against my running back where they called Kittle for holding, which was not a hold, and he stole the touchdown from him. But not much to say about this game. White had a little bit better game than previous before, but the Raiders got some problems here, but at least they won. It's better to work through problems when you're winning than it is when you're losing. Yeah. So they did pull out a big win at home and did bounce back. So that's really all I got to say about this one.
It was, I don't know, a mediocre game. Not a whole lot of stats dropped down. Somehow there was a decent score in the game, but nothing crazy out of anyone. So
yeah. And then the Sunday night game, I picked the Ravens to win. I thought they were going to win. I didn't think they were going to kick the crap out of the Bills, but I thought they were going to win. But they did exactly what I said in the video in streaming yesterday. I said Derrick Henry was going to have a big game. He had 209 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Justice Hill came out, had a nice game. I don't know how many yards Lamar had rushing, but he had a decent game. The Bills couldn't stop the rush. They couldn't stop the rush. They couldn't stop Henry. They couldn't stop Lamar. They couldn't do anything right in this game. And the Ravens defense came out and they did what they needed to do to shut down Allen. They were getting pressure on him left and right. They were blitzing. Allen didn't know where it was coming from and stuff. I think they kind of got away from the run game a little bit because they had to, because they were getting their butts kicked. I expected the Ravens to win this game, but I thought it was going to be much closer. I didn't expect a 35-10 blowout.
Yeah, and I think the Bills really need to establish like their go-to guy in the offense. I know Allen's like been praising it. Oh, everyone's so unselfish and this and that, but you can tell you've taken a hit since losing Stephon Diggs because you don't have your go-to guy. You don't have that threat that's opening up other players, and it's really impacting their passing ability. And I think if they go down in games this year, they're going to struggle because they don't have like a go-to guy. And you can only rely so much on Shakir going downfield and getting them the ball like once or twice a game. So you need to establish like some sort of go-to guy and make it easier on your offense just in general because Kincaid didn't have a crazy game, but a lot of Kincaid's production last year came down to Stephon Diggs, like taken away from the defense. So I just think they need to do something there in the passing game because you get that passing game going. James Cook is James Cook. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to run the ball. Like you're going to be able to open up so much more for your offense. And it's just kind of a mediocre offense in my eyes. I haven't thought they've been crazy at all this year. I just think things have panned out their way, and this week just showed that you need to have a good passing game.
Yeah, well, and they did target Coleman a little bit more in this game, though. Coleman, um, I'm hoping that we'll start seeing that more because Coleman had a few really nice catches. He had one really bad drop, in the game, and you could tell he was really upset about it. But he bounced back and he had some really other good catches. I think they've got a guy that could be that guy. They just need to start targeting him.
They need to start designing plays for him and allowing him to do it. Like he was targeted 4 times yesterday, had 50 yards. He was out on the field way more this week than he was last week. About 75% of the snaps. So I think even getting him out on the field a good 85-90% of the time and designing plays specifically around him is not only going to help his production here in fantasy, but I think it's going to help people like Shakir on this roster even get even more open because Shakir shines the most when another receiver is getting him open. And then I think it's going to open up Dalton Kincaid and James Cook more in the passing game as well. You need to find someone to heavily rely on. I get it's nice having everyone unselfish, but at the end of the day, having a selfish player like Stephon Diggs helped out this offense a lot over the last few years.
Yeah, the other thing is that I don't think the Bills have been throwing downfield as much this year. I know that Allen hit Shakir on one play there, which was really him scrambling and stuff like that, and it wasn't really a designed play call downfield and stuff. So I think that these teams are catching on that they're starting to, that they dump the ball off to Cook to see what he can do. Um, and they definitely need to get Kincaid more involved. He was more involved in this game, I think, which was good and stuff. But they still need to get him involved because if you get him involved and stuff, that's gonna open up the receivers. But you got to take shots downfield.
Yeah.
You got at some point you got to trust your receivers, and he doesn't have. They're not bad receivers, and Coleman's one of the top receivers in the draft class. So give the guy a shot. So and then with that, Lamar had a really good game. So man, this Ravens team, if they keep it going like this, they're going to be tough this year.
Oh, yeah.
They're definitely going to be really tough. So I think that's it. Wiggs, anything you want to add?
No.
Well, hey everybody, check us out, Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. We're also on Snapchat, X, TikTok, Instagram. Like, share, subscribe. If you got any questions or feedback, let us know. We're here to help. We hope you find this as another useful resource. And until next time, we'll see you soon.